Welcome back to Marching Health. I am Dr. Elliott Cleveland, and I'm joined today by my former educator and great mentor, great friend, Dr. Paul Byer of Clemson University. He's the director of percussion here. He has built a fantastic program, really from the ground up when he got here, and I want him to tell you about all the different philosophies and steps that he took to establish the Clemson University Percussion and the drumline in particular to be able to take it to the next level. So, Dr. Byer, you should take it away.
Elliott, thanks for having me. This is my 20th year teaching at Clemson, and when I arrived, there was really no percussion instructor in my position before that. So the students were running the drum line, and there was no percussion ensemble private lesson program on an ongoing basis. So because Clemson had such a great football tradition, the marching band was a very popular ensemble for all the percussionists to join. But back then, there was really no standards of quality or excellence, and it was just a band that students joined to have a good time and drum a little bit and party, to be honest with you. And there was very little discipline and accountability for sounding good. The biggest problem, I think, was that there was just no desire to achieve a high level of playing, a high level of excellence. And that came from a lack of leadership because they really didn't have an instructor. And the students were not in a position to provide that leadership yet. So I think by anybody getting the job 20 years ago would have been an improvement because they really didn't have anybody before that. And it took me about 4 years to weed out students that really didn't buy in to the new philosophy of being good, of playing well. I always say it's not what you play, but how you sound. That's most important. And they had the opposite viewpoint where they were really consumed with what they were playing, mostly cadences. When I got here, they were playing 9 cadences, and they strung them all together, and you really couldn't tell one from the other because they were all dirty. But that's what they enjoyed the most. So there was a lot of change that I brought in. We went down to 3 cadences. I started writing all the music and started to establish a different mindset that if you're going to be in the Clemson drumline, that our goals are going to be good. And to be good in this activity is to play clean and to play at a high level and to have fun doing it. So that's kind of how it started. And ever since then, I've had a lot of great student leaders like yourself that have been in a position to help with that vision and to keep the standards high and to work toward excellence in everything that we're doing. And that's carried on the last 20 years. It's just really been an amazing transformation with the culture of the drumline.
So 2 of the words that you always preach are culture and excellence. And they really go hand in hand. You can't have excellence without developing that culture first. So it took years.
It took years.
For you to get the culture down.
Yes. Culture building is a long-term process because of the people. And in college marching band and college sports, you always have different personnel. And you have seniors graduate and you have freshmen coming in. So it's all about getting the people to buy into what you're doing because they're responsible for the culture. I might have a say in that, but really the ownership has to come from the students. The students in the drumline today live the culture. They're not doing it because I'm telling or asking them to do it. They're doing it because they see the value in being an excellent drumline and putting in the work and the time on a daily basis to do that. And that's very valuable in life as well, is doing your best, not for a trophy, not because of a judge, not to beat another drumline or band, because it matters. It's the right thing to do. It's what music is supposed to be about, is a high level of excellence. No one wants to hear music at a mediocre level.
Right.
They're not going to buy tickets. They're not going to come to the games. There's no value in putting all this time and effort if you're not going to be really good at this.
You talk about the buying in. There's a lot of turnover when you first started, and you would get like 1 or 2 great ones to come in and buy in, and then when they leave, where'd you turn to next?
There were some down years as far as section leadership, where the leaders were not willing to uphold the standards that we all agreed on, and So it was kind of up and down for a while until we started to get some consistency with the section leaders that were in the drum line and bought in, and then they applied to be a section leader. So that sequence didn't happen for a while. It was usually students that were compliant or a little resistant, and they wanted to be a section leader and make some changes, and they didn't have a lot of convictions. They didn't really buy into what we were doing
Right.
entirely. So it was a bumpy road for quite a long time until we had some consistency with the section leaders.
And the kids at Clemson have to be highly internally motivated because there is no music major.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we have a performing arts major at Clemson, so we do have a music major, but it's not music education and it's not music performance.
Right.
But the majority of the drumline and the percussion program are non-majors. Some music minors, but mostly non-majors. So they're in the drumline and the program because they want to be. They're not required to do it. We don't have a 2 or 3 year requirement like a lot of schools do with their majors. They love the culture. There's something special about what we're doing that they are returning year after year after year. And it's really taken on a life of its own, and it's really student driven now, I think, as far as the culture.
And you always talk about working toward excellence. You've even gone and written a book about that, and that really has become the standard here.
Right.
That we got the Vic Firth sponsorship a few years back. We got in the Vic Firth University spotlight. Ever since then, excellence has just blown up at Clemson University.
Right.
So talk a little bit about your theories and how you applied that.
Well, working toward excellence, to me, is what our goal is every day. Even when you achieve it and if you achieve it, you still got to get up the next day and do it all over again. Because it doesn't necessarily carry over from one day to the next. If you take rehearsals, you can have an excellent rehearsal. That doesn't guarantee you an excellent rehearsal the next day as well. So you've got to build upon these step by step every single day and achieve that level of excellence if you're going to perform at that level. The Vic Firth Spotlight, from what I knew about it before they invited us to do that, was all the drum lines that get to do that are excellent drum lines. They don't put mediocre drum lines on their websites.
Right.
They don't spend 3 days with them. So that was from where we started 20 years ago, with the lack of buy-in and no goals for being good and a lack of accountability and just wanting to do something fun instead of doing something meaningful. That was one of the most rewarding moments that we've ever had. I couldn't have ever predicted that a Vic Firth Spotlight invitation would happen here. But it did in 2011, and that's because of the hard work of the students and the culture completely shifting 180 degrees. But we're even better now.
Right.
And I say that because we've continued to improve. We've continued to get better leadership. We've continued to have more competitive auditions. And I almost wish we had that opportunity now, because we would, and you were in that 2011 line. So, but that's gratifying as well. Is that wasn't our goal line. We've continued to improve for that. So excellence is really, it's about everything we do. It's about how we set the drums up. It's about tuning. It's about treating others with respect. It's about loading the truck. It's about respecting each section equally. Not having any kind of a hierarchy, the snares, quads, bass, and cymbals. And it's about doing everything that we do at a high level of excellence, and that translates to the line.
Yeah, the hierarchy is something that I had never really experienced fully until I got to Clemson. I just did sectionals with every different section of the drum line, and the cymbal sectional was the best one that there was, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
You don't get that at most programs that you go to. So y'all have been working several years on really having a top-notch cymbal line.
We have.
Tell us who or how that came about.
Well, I played cymbals my freshman year of my undergraduate in the Ball State University Marching Band. I almost quit because I didn't make snare or bass at the time. I was not nearly as good as I thought coming out of high school. And I was asked by the band director to give cymbals a shot because he needed team players and he needed people to put the band ahead of themselves.
Right.
And I did that, and I learned a lot about leadership and teamwork and contributing to the drum line as a cymbal player. But most cymbal lines that I was aware of, at least at the high school level at the time, were really dumping grounds for the weakest players. And they didn't get the respect, they were not valued the same way, they were not written for the same way, they were not treated the same way as the snares, quads, and basses. The front ensemble could be looped into that in many programs too. And that always bothered me, because I always thought, well, look, the marching percussion ensemble is made up of all of these sections.
Right.
And I always loved playing cymbals in the concert setting, in the orchestral setting. And I wanted to make sure that students had a place in the drum line of equal value, regardless of their instrument. So one of our philosophies at Clemson is we want you to be a part of the drum line and not just play a certain instrument. And even more than that, we want them to be a part of Tiger Band and not just the drum line. So, I've been here 20 years. When they just auditioned 5 days ago. I know this might sound weird to some people, but I really don't care what they play because I treat every section as equally important. If they have the chops to play snare, phenomenal, that's great. I want them in there. But if they don't, there's no discredit there at all. They are all of equal value as people and musicians in this drum line, and they all have a very important part in contributing to the overall picture and the music. Really, the music deserves this equality.
Right.
Mindset.
Just looking at some of y'all's post-game performances, which is something that is unique to Clemson. After every football game, the drum line goes on the 50, and the crowd comes down on the field, and really, there's pictures of hundreds and thousands of people watching them. The cymbal features that they do in some of their selections for that are just fantastic. So that the visual things that they add to the drum line really take the performance to another level and get the crowd engaged. So
yeah, I think we have an excellent cymbal line, and I'd put them up against anybody. And really, the person who took the baton, so to speak, after I tried to get the respect and the value up, was our current instructor, Lance Curry. He was our cymbal tech, and we've never had a cymbal tech in a college line, our college line here. But he did some amazing things with them in terms of techniques and different sounds and visuals as well, and really brought a sense of pride to that section. And now Lance is our drumline instructor. This is his 6th year. He's a phenomenal educator himself, and he's upheld that standard of the cymbal line that he started with. And I just, it's really, again, it's about how you sound. So we take a lot of pride in the sound of the cymbal crashes and the sound of the cymbal line as a whole. So it's not just visual.
Right. I agree completely. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Elliot. Appreciate it. Thanks.